Okay, part six and hopefully final part of my Dear Evan Hansen film review. Um, Last part, I finished my play-by-play critique of the movie, and this final, hopefully final part, is just going to be me giving specifics about myself that have to do with the subject matter of Dear Evan Hansen that are reasons why I hate it. Because if there's anybody that I hate being, it's the guy who just says he hates something and then won't elaborate on it. And, I try not to be, I hate this thing because it's popular kind of thing. It's like the most recent phenomenon is Squid Game. Like, everyone's going crazy about that, and I just didn't watch it because I'm really not interested. It's not because it's popular. Um, so I've always hated being that guy. Um, and I feel like I don't do myself justice and I don't do the review justice if I don't share my personal story to go along with my reasonings for hating the movie slash Broadway show. Um, so, obviously, Dear Evan Hansen, the main um, themes around it are teen suicide, mental illness, um, pretty much any mental problems you can have. Um, and when it comes down to it, the main reason that I dislike Dear Evan Hansen is for a term that I use and I find a lot of people have used. So like I didn't come up with it or anything, but it's pain for profit. And what I mean by that is people use these real things that real day-to-day people deal with, and they use it as subject matter for their stories that they're trying to tell, and it comes off as manipulative, and it comes off as exploiting someone and their problems for financial gain. Now, I am absolutely not saying Dear Evan Hansen was made to exploit people or manipulate people. I truly believe it was created with the best of intentions, um, that they wanted to raise awareness that this is a very real thing, and this is how they did it in musical format, which, great, it works. And I've seen plenty of movies and television shows and media that have covered the subject matter of mental illness and all that, and they've done it really well. Um, so there's better excuse me, sorry. There's better examples out there than Dear Evan Hansen, and that's why Dear Evan Hansen just doesn't sit with me well. It's the same reason why I hate 13 Reasons Why, and I despise 13 Reasons Why. Like, at least I have a love-hate relationship with Dear Evan Hansen. Um, but my personal story, to give the reasons why I dislike Dear Evan Hansen and to not sound like a hypocrite, I'm going to go ahead and say, obviously, I've discussed this heavy subject matter in the first 5 parts, so it's like this isn't anything out of left field and out of nowhere. But still, for those of you who actually care about me and are watching this because you know I'm doing this and you're a friend or family member, and not just some person that maybe might stumble across this on YouTube, here's a trigger warning, because I'm going to be discussing some really heavy stuff, um, specifically to do with me. And my original intention was to discuss these things as I was doing the play-by-play of the show, but I was finding it hard to bring it out, and I'm sure you can hear it. I'm very shaky right now. I'm shaking because I've never told anybody, some of this stuff. Um, so, with trigger warning out of the way and me at my shakiest, let's just get this over with. Um, so, of course, like I said, Dear Evan Hansen, mental illness, suicide, all that stuff. Um, I have lived with depression for a majority of my life. Um, I don't know when I started to go on this downward spiral that I've gone down, but me personally, I have pinpointed it back to when my Aunt Patty died. Um, I can just vividly think of a part of childhood being lost when she passed away, and all the losses I've dealt with since then, and other things I've dealt with since then have sent me on this downward spiral. Um, I it started out very gradual, and my Aunt Patty died, and 3 years later, my dad, who had just come back into my life, died in my bedroom on my bed, and another 3 years later, my grandma died, who I'd lived with my whole life, and a few years later, my grandpa died, and actually both my grandfathers died that year, and then this year my mom died, and each time the loss of these people has made my mental state deteriorate to the point where when I first moved here to Utah and started high school and everything, I very much was suicidal. Um, I wasn't as obvious as I am about it now, but it was there. I have always considered myself the outcast of my various groups of friends throughout the year. Um, I, 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 I always, and it's not anything my friends did or anything. It's purely me. I'm not laying blame at them. It's purely me. I've always felt like the odd one out, that I didn't fit in. I've always been overweight. Um, I've never considered myself an attractive person. I have problems with how I look and how I act, how I am, and again, it started out very gradual, but then as I put on weight and as it went on, many physical elements of me um, contributed to deteriorating mental health, and I was, for my entire teenage life, a pathological liar. I came up with lies that sounded good to me to either get out of situations or get into situations or because I wanted to fit in. And I thought if I tell people my actual story, no one will want to be around. So I would come up with things that I thought would help me fit in. And you know what? They did. Um, I'm not saying that telling the truth wouldn't have made me. I'm not saying I only fit in because I lied. I'm saying I lied. That's the problem. Do you see the correlation? Do you see why Evan's big lie pisses me off? It's because I am Evan, or was. I don't even know everything that I came up with. I lost track because it was that bad. Um, I I would come up with pity sob stories for myself to try and get sympathy from people because I craved attention, because I was missing out on so much, because I didn't fit in with people. Again, I thought I did this because I thought this was what I had to do to fit in, because normal me just wasn't enough. It just wasn't. And uh, a lot of my friends have called me out on my bullshit, thank God. And now we're good, and it's a thing of the past, but a lot of friends, people still don't know. And when it all comes down to it, that is the main reason why I hate Dear Evan Hansen, because I feel manipulated by the subject matter and how they portray it, but because I was Evan. Um, I, I even a couple of times came up with lies that were as big and as bad as Evan's, and I'm not fucking proud of myself, and I haven't been for years. And I guess this is my way of coming clean. I'm not comfortable with going into the specifics of the big ones I remember, but if you were there and you knew me at the time, you know. Um, but as my teenage life went on, I spent a whole year helping my mom take care of my grandmother. And um, while we were taking care of her, we had one incident where I threw my back out. And since then, I developed scoliosis and kyphosis in my back. I have arthritis in my lower left area. I don't remember the specifics that my doctor told me. But my back pain, I liked, not I like, but it has attributed to my mental state because I can't go do things that I love doing because sometimes it's too painful. I've never been on medication for it, which thank God, because that comes into our next part I'm covering. And yeah, I know I just revealed myself as a pathological liar through my teenage years, but I like to think that my friends that I know now who didn't know past me would tell me that I'm a trustful, upstanding guy. So I'm hoping that watching this and hearing the rest of the stuff I have to say, um, you'll believe me. And if not, I totally understand. But I was dealing with my back pain, and I remember one day it was so bad, my grandpa gave me one of his pain pills. He was on Percocet, and it made me feel good. It was the best I had felt since before I had threw my back out. And from then on, it was a downward spiral of me becoming addicted to prescription painkillers. And I was given them by my grandpa, I was given them by my mom, so that I could go and function as a normal human being. And I was addicted. So, yeah, I liked the high, but I also needed it. And that was the sucky thing, because I couldn't find anything else that would help. So I was feeding my addiction out of a necessity. And it got to a point where I would steal the pills from my mom and my grandpa, who needed them a lot more than I did. And to this day, I am not fucking proud of myself for that. And honestly, the only reason that I don't consider myself technically addicted anymore is because I don't have access to it. But I haven't beat my addiction. If it was put in front of me again, I haven't beaten it. I take kratom now because I need it, because if I didn't have it, I wouldn't be able to work my demanding job, and I wouldn't be able to function as a human being, which, thank God, those do not have the same effects as Percocet. So I'm okay with it. If my back pain ever went away, I would be able to quit it, no problem. But I need it to function. And the reason I come clean as a drug addict is to tell one of the toughest things that I have ever told to anyone, even though I'm not telling it to anybody in person. So I said, I've been suicidal. And I tried to kill myself a couple of times in my high school years. They weren't successful, but obviously, but I did. And there's one specific one that I need to come clean about that nobody knows. I never even told my mom. The morning I had my first seizure at work, and friends who are watching this know about my seizures. So that's all I need to say about that. But that morning, I was getting up to go into work, and this is prime me taking Percocet and whatever else I could get that I knew would give me some kind of high. And I had gotten the pill for the day that my mom was going to give me. But it wasn't enough at this point because I'd built a tolerance to it. And I was on antidepressants. I had just started antidepressants at the time. So I was taking that, and I was taking a few other things. I don't remember what specifically. But I was chasing a high. So I had my mom's pill, but that wasn't enough. So I went snooping to see if there was anything on the floor in any of the bedrooms, any pills that had been dropped, like, oh, here's a spare one that we didn't know about that I can take. And I did find one. I found an old, um, long time release pain pill that my mom had taken in the past. I mean, it was old, months, not a full on year, but maybe close to it. And I thought, oh, cool, I'll take this because either it'll work and I'll get what I'm after, or it'll kill me, and I win either way. So yes, those of you who know about my first seizure and all that, that morning was in a way a suicide attempt, and I got pulled out of it. And that morning caused me to have seizures for a long time after that. There was never another moment where I had an experience like that, finding a random pain pill. It just started my seizures. So I have nobody but myself to blame for that. And I got taken off my medication because of it, because we were scared that those were causing it. And we could never find what was causing them, but I knew. I knew that was at least what started it. From then on, I don't know what was causing them. Um, but yeah, that first seizure that morning at work was a suicide attempt, and I have not told anybody that until now. I've had many suicide attempts throughout my life, to the point where I even told my mom about one, and I lied to her. See, it ties in, saying that my grandpa saved me, but my grandpa never even knew about it. I just happened to not die. And the rough thing is, I have suicide attempts that date up to a few days ago. I always said for a while that when my grandpa died and I became my mom's primary caregiver, that the only thing keeping me from doing anything about it was mom being around and needing me to take care of her, and that as soon as she was gone, there was no point in me staying. Mom died February of this year. I've had 4 suicide attempts since then. And thankfully, none of them have been successful, I guess. I, I say thankful because I'm obviously not in a good place. And this isn't me telling this because I want people to reach out and I want people to give me a reason to stay, and I don't want that, because I've gotten that from so many people. I don't know what I want, but I know I don't want that. But it was time for me to come clean, and this is the easiest way to do it. Discussing a piece of media that I don't like, that deals with the things I'm dealing with, and I'm telling my truth to go with it, so that my arguments against it don't seem hypocritical. But yeah, I'm Evan. I was a pathological liar. I've tried to kill myself, and to this day I still deal with these mental illnesses. Some that probably aren't even addressed. Actually, a lot of them probably aren't even addressed. The only one I've ever been officially diagnosed with was depression, even though my doctor multiple times told me I had more, but wouldn't diagnose me with them or figure out what it was to put a name to it. Um, and I'm Evan in a lot of other ways. Being the outcast, being like, I had my friend circle after a while, but for a time I was that kid sitting in the corner in the lunch area, just not even really eating, minding my own business. And I was the kid who had the crush on the cute girl, but I couldn't talk to her. Um, there was even a girl I could talk to, but I never had the guts to ask her out. And I I've been where Evan is in the whole story. I've been where he is in the beginning, I've been where he is in the middle, and I've been where he is at the end. And I think I hate it so much because I see myself in it, and I don't want to see my behavior that I gave off being praised and being sympathized with. I've always been a loner. I will always be a loner in a way. I have friends, obviously. I love my friends. My best friend, his name's Travis, for those of you who don't know him. That man has saved my life more times than I care to admit. He is the best friend a guy could ask for, and he's arguably one of the best things that's ever happened to me. So obviously there is good. And of course I've got my brothers in Michigan who I love, and I've got my brother Lee. I've got people, and I love you all. But I'm in pain, and I'm at the point where I'm not even sure I want help for the pain, because I'm so familiar with it now that I can't imagine a life without it. But it's how it is. And I'm sorry to say that there have been suicide attempts up to just a couple days ago. But if you were in my shoes and you knew where I was, I would like to see how you'd do it, because maybe you'd do it better than me, and then I could have the answer. But that's what it is, and that's what I needed to get off my chest. I'd like to go into more specifics, but I don't want to make this thing 21 parts of me telling every sob story about me. You get the gist of it. I'm Evan. I was a pathological liar. I've attempted suicide multiple times. I've got more mental problems than I even know how to tally or to name or to anything. And I hate that Evan is a sympathetic character, because I don't want people to sympathize with that version of me. But that's why the songs hit me so hard. You Will Be Found. That's what I needed to hear at the time. I heard that song the first time the day after one of my suicide attempts. And that's why it broke me. Words Fail. Words Fail sounds like a suicide note. And I guarantee, not even guarantee, I can tell you I've left some suicide notes that were as melodramatic as Words Fail is. They don't exist anymore because I've gotten rid of them, but they existed. And Dear Evan Hansen just hit me right. But I hate it for those reasons that I stated in all 6 parts. And just as a little add-on at the end here, I have found a few things that address mental illness and problems, real problems that real people go through that are not addressed, and sometimes they're laughed off or cringed off. You know, people cringe at them saying things about themselves, like people that say they want to die. I've got friends that cringe at me when I say it. I've found things that speak to me and that have helped. One thing that I was not expecting is Bo Burnham's new special from this year, Inside. It's very comedic, obviously, because he's a comedian and everything, but it addresses some heavy stuff in a comedic manner, which is very easy to go after, and it's genuine because it's just him talking about his problems. And then the other thing is a band called Citizen Soldier. Listen to their music. I discovered one of their songs randomly one day, broke down in tears because it was all my pain and anguish put into words for the first time. You want real examples of dealing with mental illness and addressing mental illness and suicide? You check out that band, Citizen Soldier. They're one of the best bands I've ever discovered. But I wanted to leave that as a little add-on. I am running out of time, and I'm just going to end it here. So this has been my review of the Dear Evan Hansen film adaptation, and I am finally done with it, and I will see you all in whatever I review next, and thank you so much for listening. I love you all.